Kevin.
I always say how cool. I think I've said that multiple times.
Man.
Sit up.
All right. I believe we are live. Yep.
0 watchers.
So where's the chat at? Okay. Live. Hey everybody. So today we're going to be doing a stream on through hiking gear, the gear we use for through hiking. We have 3 different hikers here. And yeah, so we're going to have 3 different types of gear. We all do things a little bit differently, although I think we're all on the slightly lighter weight end or more. But yeah, welcome to the stream. If you guys have questions while we're discussing, we're kind of do a format where we have our gear out. We'll all show what our tent is, what our shelter is, whatever that might be. And then if you have any questions, stick them in the comments and we'll try to answer them. Although they tend to go by really fast, so you might have to do it a couple times for us to really see the question, but we'll try to get to you. Anyways, hello everybody. Give it a few more seconds here to make sure everything's up and running smoothly. As far as audio goes, we have a new setup now, so we have a new camera that should be a little bit better quality-wise. We have an external microphone, so I know a lot of people said we were really quiet last time. Hopefully it's a lot louder. Let us know in the comments if anything needs to be adjusted.
And I'm not mute. I was letting him talk. Hi, everyone.
All right, looks like we need to put up the volume a little higher. Let's see if we can. All right, that is all the way up on there.
Hey, how's it going, man?
So that audio is all the way up. How's that sound? Choppy. Yeah, that's the
real MeHap.
TV Monster. It's a great book. I'm glad you're reading it, or you read it. Yeah. Thanks for supporting other hikers.
audio's good. Audio could be louder. Stream is choppy. Man, that's the internet. Our internet here is really horrible. Yeah, it says the health is low too. Maybe that'll improve as it buffers a bit. Sound is low again? Man. Alright, we'll bring the microphone forward to here. Delaying. Man. That's the internet. Okay. Howdy, howdy. Alright, let's just get started because the internet cannot be improved right now. Hopefully that'll just buffer out as we continue. Audio's good. Okay. So, gear. Why don't we just show all of our packs? Actually, let's get some tea too.
Oh, yeah. Today we're drinking a Moroccan mint tea. Should be good.
Is it from Morocco?
No.
From the hills
From
of
Boulder, Colorado.
From the hills of Boulder, Colorado?
I think it's a Chinese tea though.
So it's Moroccan Chinese tea.
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense, does it? But
Well, we try not to make sense here.
we'll take them for their word, I guess.
Video is still buffering. Huh. Let me double check the settings here.
Thank you, MeHap. Oh yeah, that sounds good. Straight from the hills of Argentina, Colorado.
Boulder.
Consider... Oh, the encoding is overloaded. Alright, so we have to turn down the encoder then.
Oh.
Turning down encoder.
I was wondering why we're using that laptop.
Yeah.
Should have used mine.
Alright, we're going to have to pause the output for a second.
The show, 64 watching. Got it.
That's
Alright. How is that back up?
looks like we're live.
Yeah, it's better. Hey, yo.
Much better.
Okay, so we lowered the bit rate. Sorry about that. This is a new camera. Alright, audio's still good? Good.
Yeah.
Alright, so let's get into it. We've got our tea.
We've got our tea. Now we can start.
Got our backpacks.
Cheers, boys.
Here's to
Cheers.
through hiking.
Yeah.
Cheers, everyone.
Alright, so general pack overview. Let's start there. I'll start. So for the past 2 through hikes, which is CDT and PCT for me, I've used the Crown VC60. It's a huge pack. It's a 60-liter pack, far more than I really need for through hiking, definitely. But it does give me room if I have a heavy load with food, if I need to add in a bunch of food. It gives me room for that, and it can roll down and compress really tight. So I've never minded it. It's still it's still a light pack. I wouldn't say really light. It's around 2 pounds. It doesn't have a full frame, but it has a plastic frame sheet. So a frame sheet is good for supporting a load, kind of distributing it across your pack, and keeping things from actually poking out into your back if you have any sharp things in your pack. So I like a frame sheet. I know a lot of people, some people go frameless, and it works really well if you have a light pack and you know how to pack it appropriately. I like to have a minimal frame sheet or like a piece of foam just to distribute the load a little better. Guess that's all I need to say about this.
Yeah.
Go ahead, MeHap. I'll go last.
So I use the Ohm 2.0, ULA Ohm 2.0. I've used it on the past 2 through hikes, and I enjoy it quite well. It has a large mesh pocket on the back, just like a lot of other packs. 2 pockets on either side for water bottles, and you can fit 2 Gatorade bottles in here easily. They're pretty expansive. I shove usually 1 or 2 water bottles, trekking poles, any odds and ends I need to get to quickly, like sunscreen. This pack doesn't have a frame sheet, but it does have a kind of carbon fiber rod that goes down either side and then connects with the metal loop on the top, and that kind of gives you some stability, some transfer the weight down to the hip belt, but it's not a full frame sheet, much like the Crown. Does the Crown have a full frame sheet?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a plastic frame sheet along the whole way.
Yeah.
Or along the whole back panel.
Yeah. So same idea, but kind of implemented in a different way. Has an adjustable hip belt. I set it to the length I need, and then it never moves. But that means you can adjust it for different people, which is nice. And then you can get different size hip belts. I believe it's around a 40 or 50 liter. I'm not 100% sure. It's been a long time since I've actually looked at the specs for this pack. But that tends to be a good size for me, at least, and the gear I had. So.
All right. So I have the polenta pack, and I just recently got this pack. I have
It's Palante, not
polenta.
It's not polenta.
Polenta's good too, though.
Yeah.
Polenta. Anyways, you want to say it one more time for the viewers?
Sure.
Parsnips.
I have the parsnips pack, and I have not used this on a full hike. I've been testing this pack out. This is a Cuban fiber pack. It's called the Cuban Simple. It's pretty small, as you can see. It does have pockets for water or umbrella or anything. Has the front pocket. The weight on this pack is 7.5 ounces. So this is going to be the smallest pack of the three. This pack does not have a hip belt as well. And I've done about a 6-day carry on this, and my shoulders felt fine. What I used prior was actually the Mountain Laurel Design Burn pack, and it's a similar capacity, a little bit more. This one is a 35 liter, so it's a bit smaller, so I am adjusting my gear a bit in order to use this pack. And what I've noticed is that you really need to be below a 10-pound base weight in order to use this pack to its full potential. And if you go above that, you're really pushing the limits of this particular pack. This pack comes in 2 designs, either the Cuban Simple or just the Simple pack, and that one is made with similar material to these types. Other than that, as you can see, it's pretty light. Here's a closer look. Unfortunately, this pack is currently sold out, so you will not be able to buy it currently, but they should have another run soon.
Yeah, and Palante pack was started by 2 other thru hikers, and they make some pretty cool stuff.
Yep, one of my friends, Andy. Hi, Andy.
So, one thing I will say about price. That's a good point. So, price points on these. This one is about a $200 pack. It survived 2 long trails, which is super impressive. Only thing I don't like about it is that it doesn't have hip belts or hip belt pockets. Sorry. The new one does though, so they've fixed that and they've maintained the same weight, which is awesome. But I think in the future for me, I'm going to be going with a much smaller pack when I thru hike. This one's just a little too beefy.
He likes them beefy. I don't know if you noticed that.
It's kind of true with packs.
This pack was $260 retail, and I can look up how much the other pack that I mentioned, the Mountain Laurel Design Burn. I'll look up how much that one cost.
Yeah, and I believe the ULA home is around 200 as well. I'm not exactly sure on the exact price.
Let's see. If I remember correctly, the Burn was like 180 or something. They're pretty simple packs.
What's a good weight goal for the total on your pack? For the pack weight, definitely shoot for 2 pounds or less. There's a lot of packs, most packs out there are above 2 pounds, and it's not worth it to carry that extra weight for no reason when you can get a 2-pound pack that can carry a large load still and be comfortable. So I just shoot for 2 pounds or less.
Yeah. And I think
that's a good rule.
For us to, at least a general pack weight, we try to stay around 30 pounds, not go up above that too much.
Yeah. For a base weight, shoot for 15 at the max, I think.
Yeah.
That's if you're carrying your gear every day on a thru hike, you should have as light a load as you can. 15 is achievable by, I think, anybody, and that's not going to break the bank either. You can go much lighter than that, and you can do so pretty cost effectively too. I know ultralight kind of used to be the thing for people that had all the money to spend on gear, but really anyone can go lightweight now. The gear prices have gone down.
Yeah, definitely. I think my first base weight when I got into ultralight style backpacking, it was upwards of 13 or 14, and I didn't spend a lot of money. I used a lot of old gear, secondhand gear, and it wasn't until I really started to spend the cash did I get the base weight below 10. So it does take time, and it's not something that happens overnight, so I wouldn't worry too much about it.
Yeah, but to get to a base weight of like 15 to 10, that's doable without buying a crazy amount of expensive gear or replacing your gear with lighter things. That can be achieved just by removing things that you don't need.
Yep.
For the most part.
And for those to explain base weight is the weight of all of your gear minus food and water in your pack minus anything you wear on trail. So it's essentially all your gear in your pack minus food and water.
Do you guys know your current base weight or what you used on the CDT or last thru hike?
Mine hovers around 12.
12.
Yeah, that's about the same with me. 11, 12, somewhere in there.
Mine tends to be a bit heavier because I always shot video on trail.
Yeah.
I would always carry a big battery pack. Hey, friend. I always carried a pretty heavy battery pack, so I always had battery to film with and to edit on. So that added to my base weight a little bit.
You can edit on your battery?
Yeah,
I can edit right on it.
I think that mine was at 9. I could be wrong, but it's gotten a little lower since then. But I think it's going to go back up if I start shooting more things on trail. So we'll see. These things fluctuate. I mean, it depends on which hike you're doing as well.
Yeah, and it depends on the stage of the hike and what
definitely.
gear you need. If you're going through the Sierras in 2017, you may need snowshoes, ice axe, and a bunch of other things. Which
Waterproof socks.
Yeah.
Not many people do waterproof socks. That saved my feet on the CDT.
I've on the CDT I got neoprene socks, and I walked through a river and my feet were just dry as could be on the other side. It was pretty cool.
No word of a lie. Those things work amazing until they wear out on a Thru. But when they're new, they work great. I mean, I remember my feet being warm even if they were a little moist from sweat.
Yeah. So if you're doing extended snowshoe hiking in trail runners, definitely invest in some waterproof socks.
Yeah,
I think it's a good idea.
And my argument for
All right, next subject. What should we cover?
Let's just go what's on top of most of our packs, I guess. Unless you want to.
Why don't we do water bottles since we're on the outside? This will be really fast.
Yeah. I mean,
water storage. No one uses Nalgene's. Nalgene's are horrible to drink from. They're heavy. They break. Not everyone. A lot of people use smart water bottles or some form of the plastic bottle you'd get like from a gas station. It's lightweight. It's super durable. I've had these last me for multiple months on trail. The real factor is they start to get grimy and moldy, so you should probably throw them out before then. But
if you don't use this, you're never gonna make it. Okay? You're never.
I don't know about that.
I'm kidding.
I usually carry water bottle on the side that has my Sawyer squeeze. And the cool thing about the smart water bottles, the reason they're so popular, is that you can put a Sawyer squeeze on them. It has the correct threads. So I usually keep a bottle with my Sawyer squeeze on, just attached to in my hip bottle pocket, my bottle pocket, and then kind of just secure the Sawyer squeeze so it doesn't bounce around. And then on the other side, I usually either have another smart water bottle or a Gatorade bottle or a Powerade bottle. That way I can do like mixed drinks and stuff in the morning. Yeah. It's a little harder to get the powder and stuff in the smaller bottles.
I want to answer that question real quick about the neoprene socks. Me personally, if I'm hiking through really wet snow, like Colorado snow, I'm going to keep them on the whole time because the moisture in your feet is going to be substantial, but they're going to stay a lot warmer opposed to if you take them off and you let your feet soak, because your shoes are going to soak through. Most likely you're going to have some sort of trail runners that are just going to get wet. So I just leave them on. But if I'm hiking in a dry area, I will only put them on through river crossings. And it really just depends on what elevation I'm at and what kind of day I'm having, to be honest. It kind of varies. But I don't always just hike with them, if that answers your question.
Yeah, they're usually for specific conditions. When you know you're going to be hiking through a lot of snow, it's handy to have them. But if you're not, if you're just going to be going up and over passes with snow, then your feet are going to get wet. Your feet might get a little cold, but as soon as you get off the pass and out of the snow, they're going to dry up and get warm.
So next we'll go on to what we actually use for water filtration. But in the comments, tell me if the stream is too horrible, I can pause it right now and bump the bitrate down another level so it'll even out a bit. So let me know right now if I should lower the bitrate to get a higher quality video. But until then, let's get our filtration out.
It's already out. Why would I put it in my pack?
Alright. Looks like we should lower the bitrate. Alright, cool. Cool. Stream is gonna be off for a second here, but then we'll bump the bitrate down. This new camera is throwing things up. Okay.
Bump, bump.
Alright. Stream is live. Health is green this time. That's a good sign.
We don't want to see anybody's rash.
No rash decisions here. Alright, so I'm going to do that. Oh. Alright, so we're back on. You guys can start with your filtration. I'm going to adjust this.
I think that I kind of covered it earlier. I use for example, on the last year I did on the Continental Divide Trail through New Mexico, I carried a small dropper bottle of bleach and would bleach the water, put a few drops in there, and then run it through my Sawyer squeeze. That was because a lot of the water in New Mexico was really grimy. They were cow ponds or cow troughs, and there was a lot of cow poop in the water. So
a lot.
we just tried to, and the dirtier it gets, the more you treat it. But as soon as I got out of New Mexico, I dropped the Sawyer squeeze and just bleached if I needed to. But a lot of the streams, and I got into a routine of a lot of the streams or the sources that I was confident in and that were higher up, I would just drink straight. You are taking a risk with that. You could get sick, you could get Giardia, you could get parasite, but that was a risk I was willing to take, and it's something I wanted to try out. And there was a while there on the CDT where I didn't treat at all.
Oh, it is in the chat.
Anything else?
Yeah, on the AT, I used a what did I use? I used a hand pump filter. The Catadine, what's that thing called?
Catadine?
Catadine. I'm not sure if it has a sub name.
Hiker Pro or something like that.
Yeah, the Hiker Pro.
It's horrible.
That was a classic one back in the day. I mean, everybody used those. And it worked. I had a few issues with the handle breaking, which kind of made it really bad or really hard to actually pump.
Those things are dinosaurs now.
Yeah.
I wouldn't use one.
I think that the thing you're going to see the most on trail is the Sawyer squeeze.
Yeah.
And I think you guys can attest to using the
I was going to say the same thing. Squeeze all the way. Do not go with the mini on a through hike. You can get by with it if you want to go ultralight on a weekend hike. Oh, fancy. But the Sawyer Squeeze Mini has a kind of abysmal flow rate, and it's not worth it. You'll be back flushing every time you're in town, and when you're on trail, you'll be wondering if you should be back flushing there because the flow rate is just so low.
Yeah.
Whereas these have a really nice flow rate for a filter.
Yeah, and they can last. I mean, you'll have to back flush it a few times the through hike, but I mean, they'll last the whole through hike if you're careful.
One caveat to the squeeze is you can't let it freeze.
Yes,
so
very true.
That goes with any filter.
Not all of them, though.
Yeah,
the ceramic ones are okay. But once these get waters, so they have a hollow not microfiber, I forget, some such and such membrane, and once water gets in there, once it freezes, it expands, it breaks the membrane, suddenly bacteria and everything is getting through.
Larger particulates and stuff.
Best thing to do at night, if it's going to be anywhere near freezing, is just take this off, throw it in the foot of your sleeping bag or quilt, and that'll keep it warm enough to keep it from freezing.
So on the CDT, I believe I started with the Mini, if I'm not mistaken, and I hated life. It was horrendous, especially with the cow ponds that are in New Mexico.
Yeah.
There was multiple areas where I was using Aquamir drops and filtering and putting Gatorade in the water just so that it would taste normal. And I would definitely recommend, and if you're going to do a CDT or a hike where you know water is going to be bad, like the sources are very far and in between I would definitely take multiple things to filter if it makes you feel better. It made me feel better. I also got a little cocky along the hike, and I stopped filtering my water in Colorado, and that was a big no-no because I got Giardia. So do not do that. Take it from me. That ended my my hike for the year. I was done.
Yeah. Like I said, you're taking a risk.
Also now I use about a drop or two of bleach, and it is taking a risk, but as long as you do that, I'd say 90%, 95% of the time you'll be okay. So it's not like I'm scared of Giardia now. Life goes on.
I'm not scared.
I'm not scared. I'm not scared.
I'm really scared.
That means we're good.
We're good, but the health is dropping for some reason.
Okay.
I think it's our internet.
Does the PCT have cow ponds? I was on the PCT last year, and I only did up to Mammoth from Kempo, and I don't remember any cow ponds that I needed to get water from. Water's pretty good on the PCT, as far as I know. Maybe up north, you guys probably know better.
So I think if you were to find any, it would be up in Northern California. There were some sources in Oregon that were shady, that had a lot of cows and stuff around it. I'm thinking Mount Shasta had a lot of cows. It wasn't necessarily cow ponds, but the streams and everything, they walk through the streams, they poop in the streams, they don't really care.
No respect.
Yeah.
Yeah, those cows show no respect. I drank out of so many cow ponds on the CDT, I became a disgusting person, but that's just part of it. Right?
Let's do this. Let's go, each one of us kind of describe our worst water source of hiking.
I want to be last. That's bad.
Oh.
Yeah. I guess I'll go first. I think the worst water, so there's a lot of shitty water, excuse my language, in New Mexico, literally. But I think the worst water source I've run into was up in Montana. And it was a spring box in it was like a farmer's spring box, and it gathered water so that it could feed the cow troughs. But there was a fence around the spring, so cows couldn't get directly in the spring, which was great, and the fence was working great. But as soon as you walked up to the spring and you lifted the lid, there were 6, 7 dead squirrels in the water, floating in the spring, floating in the water that was there for you to drink. And some of them were bloated, and some of them were, decaying. It wasn't a pleasant situation, and I believe it was like a 30-mile stretch prior to that, or something along those lines, with no water. So when we got to that water source, we were pretty.
I was out of water. I remember being there.
Yeah, I was out of water too, and I think what we decided to do was actually drop down off of the divide and get down to where there were more water sources, because that was a pretty long stretch without water. So
always check your spring boxes.
Yeah,
apparently. Yeah, I remember some of those squirrels were pretty much translucent. It was just like this bloated blob, and you could see through the squirrel. It was gross.
Yeah.
So that's actually mine as well. There was one in the Wyoming, the Red Desert, and it was just it looked like cows had pooped in a pond, and that was the water source. And you would pick up the water, and it was chunky with these brown sediments floating around, but it was the only water in like 30 or 40 miles.
Yeah.
So sometimes you got to do it.
Yeah.
If it's that bad, I would definitely pre-filter with a bandana at the very minimum. But
and that's why you carry multiple primary water treatment sources in New Mexico.
Yeah.
And in other areas where there's a lot of Yeah.
So my worst water was in New Mexico, and it was very early on the hike. I want to say it was day 2, and there are some caches if you start off at Crazy Cook's Monument. And I remember getting the water at the cache, but I didn't get that much, which I don't know why. And I got to a water source. It was a cow pond, but there was a cistern that went off with a timer. And I didn't know at the time how to operate that timer. I found out later you can operate it and get water to flow, but I did not know how to do that, and I ran out of water. So, as I got to the cow pond, I dipped my water in, and as I did that, the cows that were in the cow pond when I got there ran out, and as they ran out, they all pooped into the water. So I tried to hurry and get as much water as I could because they were on the other side of the pond. And I literally got as much water as I could and then went from one bottle and then filtered through a bandana into another one. And then I filtered it through with, I think it was drops or I might have had tablets at that point. And then I went through a Sawyer and then I put Gatorade in it and it still tasted like shit. So...
The funny thing about that water source is when I was like a few weeks behind you, I believe, for a couple days behind you, and I rolled up to that water source, and there were maybe 4 other people hanging out in the shade, just having their siesta, but also waiting for the water to turn on because it was a cistern controlled by a timer, and no one there knew how to control the timer. So I rolled up and I was like, well, what are we waiting for? And they're all like, we're waiting for the timer. It only goes off every 3 hours or something like that. And I was like, well, when's the last time it went off? And they're like, oh, when we got here, someone said that it had gone off like a half hour ago. And that was a half hour ago, so it was an hour. So we have to wait for 2 more hours. And I was like, well, why don't we just change the timer? So we ended up just changing the timer. And I got fresh water and didn't have to do it.
To answer Russ Ivy's question, it was not bad luck. It was my first real through hike, and that's why you don't hike the CDT for your first time. Take it from me.
All right, so let's sum up water. AT, water's great all the time. Gets a little dry in Pennsylvania, doesn't matter. PCT, be careful in the desert. Water can be low there. You might have to do some longer carries. There used to be a lot of caches. I hear that the caches are starting to disappear so often. So be careful in the desert. Beyond that, Northern California can get a little scarce on water, but it's not bad. And the rest of the trail is perfect. CDT, it can get rough on water. There's a lot of cow ponds that you'll be drinking from.
Yeah.
And you'll be doing long carries, but it's still not that bad. It's the worst of the 3 for water.
Yeah, you have to do more miles on the CDT because of water sources, but as compared to the AT.
Yeah, that's very true. Some people in the beginning of the PCT are freaked out about water, and they'll have like 6 or 7 liters on them. And I think that's a good thing to start, to be freaked out about water in the beginning of any desert section. But you will learn how to manage your water better as time goes by. Yeah. So if you're wondering how much water should I take more. Maybe someone else will need it.
Yeah.
And then later down the road, you'll figure out how to manage your water better. I mean, you can get by maybe 5 to 10 miles on half a liter if you have to. It's not healthy, but you can do it.
Yeah. You could always dump out extra water or give it to somebody that needs it. Maybe don't dump it out.
No,
I use it to wash my hair or my beard.
2 questions. Are you worried about ticks with your long hair and sweet beards? Ticks, I am very worried about ticks on the AT, not at all on the PCT or CDT. Yeah. AT, definitely check yourself every night, especially near New York. It gets really bad around there.
Yeah, and that's where Lyme's disease is kind of central, is New York, New England area.
Yeah.
So, yeah, be really careful on the AT.
Lyme disease is no joke, so don't mess around with
There
that.
was this recent article saying this is going to be the worst Lyme disease year on the AT. I think due to, is it deer or horse or it's some sort of animal?
And just global warming. They're moving up slowly.
Yeah.
They're starting to be in Maine.
So if you're starting the AT soon, be careful.
And NPR just had a really good article about Lyme disease and kind of its condition right now. I highly suggest looking that up. They have great maps of the last 10, 20 years and where Lyme disease has been centrally located and how it's spread.
Also, if you're not hiking with a partner, don't feel weird about asking someone to give you a tick inspection. You can't see the back of your back or neck or certain areas. It doesn't hurt to ask someone, can you give me a tick inspection? And then you can do it for them. People are there to help. So
just take off your clothes and just walk up to them and then ask, can you check me for ticks?
But you have to use a really weird voice, though, first to freak them out. Can you check me for ticks?
No, it sounds weird to ask someone else, asking a stranger or someone to check for ticks, but thru hikers are really friendly, and when you get on trail, you understand.
All right, there was one other question I thought was pretty good.
That's also how you pick up on the ladies. Want to give me a tick inspection?
Oh yeah, so when you're out in the elements, how do you protect yourself from sunburn, sunscreen, stuff like that? I have a long sleeve shirt that I always wear. My legs, I just kind of let them get used to it, but I made a huge mistake on the CDT and forgot sunscreen, and my legs were just fried for the first section. So my recommendation is take a tiny bottle of sunscreen to start, get your body used to it, get some tan built up and resistance, and then you can start just relying solely on long sleeves. And I just let my legs go. Yeah. Maybe that's not the smartest idea, but I can't carry around so much sunscreen all the time.
For me, I usually carry just a bottle of sunscreen. 55 is where I usually land, but I might start off with something a little more. And in the beginning, like Joe said, I usually put it on my arms, put it on my nose, my ears, and anything that might get a lot of sun. And in the beginning, I'll even put it on my legs. But over time, especially if you're in the desert, you'll build up a suntan and kind of natural protection for your legs. And when you start to put sunscreen on your legs, you'll find that they get a lot dirtier quicker. So it's kind of natural to just stop on a thru hike, to just stop putting sunscreen on your legs. But some people do. And everybody's different. Everybody's skin is different. So just make sure you apply sunscreen liberally to where you think you need it, because that is very important.
So
Adam is on a train heading to the AT as we speak. That's pretty
awesome.
cool.
Good luck, Adam.
Yeah. How crazy is
Good
that
luck
you
to
can
you.
watch this while you're on a train heading to the trail?
That's pretty cool.
We are in the future.
Yeah.
So as far as sunscreen for myself, I'm Mexican. I don't use sunscreen. No, that's a lie. I am Mexican, but I wear long sleeve. I also wear a hood. So I have like a button-up
Hood?
shirt.
You wear a sun hood?
No. So I wear like a similar shirt to Apache, but it's a short sleeve, and under that I have an icebreaker long sleeve hooded, I don't know what you would call it, like some sort of shirt, right, with a hood. So that covers me completely as far as my neck. And then I wear tights during the desert, so like some sort of really cheap, lightweight. There's this brand from Macy's called 32 Degrees. They're really thin, and you are still gonna get dirt on your legs, but you have some sun protection. And after a while, you're still gonna get some sun even though you have the leggings on. After a while, I just stopped wearing them because I got a decent tan, but I didn't get completely burned. So that's kind of a tip that works for me. I didn't use them for the whole hike last year. I used them for maybe about 500 miles, and then once I was out of most of the desert, I stopped.
Yeah.
It was dark.
And there are sun shirts made specifically for that. There are sun gloves, so if when your hands are out there on your trekking poles, they can get really burnt, so you want to watch for that too.
And that's something that a lot of people don't really think of before they get on trail is on the AT you don't really need to worry about it that much, but your hands are always going to be exposed, especially if you're using trekking poles, and you'll get burnt on your hands if you don't. I think I've gotten like some slight sun poisoning on my hands on the PCT because I wasn't being as careful as I should have been.
And there's also umbrellas, which I would recommend for rain gear sometimes. We'll get into that later.
Oh, by the way, thanks for the pack, John.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And to answer your question, definitely.
Is he on here?
Yeah.
So
hey,
on
John.
my
What's up?
where's the camera? On my squeeze, I keep a smart water bottle adapter thing on top, and this comes off of the get in there. This is really hard. This comes off of the 750 milliliter smart water bottles.
Those are the small ones.
Yeah, actually, I have
You have
one
one right
somewhere.
here.
Yeah.
Show 'em.
They look like that, but they come with this cap on it, and on this cap is this little flip top, which is great to sip from, but also this is a great way to back flush the Sawyer. So you get a clean water bottle, stick this cap onto the water bottle, make sure it's had only clean water in it because you don't want to back flush with dirty water. And on the squeeze, there's this little thing here, nozzle where you can backflush it. And so what you do, I'm not going to do this over the computer, but what you do is made up that little, what do you call that, a nozzle on the end of the smart water cap with the nozzle on the end of the Sawyer squeeze, push them hard together and just squeeze the bottle, and that'll backflush the filter pretty efficiently. It's not quite as effective as the plungers that these things come with, but it's way lighter, and you can actually nest it right on top of the squeeze there, which is really handy.
Apache, I believe the correct term for this right here is the nipple.
The nipple.
This is the nipple.
All right. And as far as water bladders go with the Sawyer squeeze, I've never used the water bladder with a Sawyer squeeze. I've heard that you can use it as kind of a draw filter on your hose.
You can use it as inline. You can use it different ways.
You can't. It doesn't work well as inline.
Yeah, I personally don't like it. I wouldn't.
The platypus inlines work so well because they don't filter quite as well as the Sawyers do. They're a little wider micron pore size or whatever you call it.
Yeah, I believe that it's a 0.2 versus the platypus versus the 0.1 of the Sawyer squeeze.
The micron?
Yeah, so you're going to get a better filtration out of this than you would a platypus.
At the cost of a slower flow rate.
So this isn't as great for drip filtering or inline filtering.
Yeah, and it's good to know, just to point out now, we should move on, but platypus bags do not, they have some proprietary thread on them, and they don't nest well with the squeezes. So if you do that, you'll tend to have leaks around the dirty water input, which is bad because those dirty water leaks go to the top and might get in your water source. So probably not a good idea to use platypus bags. Evernew makes really great bags that thread perfectly onto the filter.
Yeah, and one more thing with the Sawyer squeeze, they have actually fixed this. I'm seeing in this newer one, but if you get an older one, the gaskets have a tendency of falling out and sticking to your bottle. But they put this new, I don't know. This thing still comes out. I would still be aware of that. Just make sure your gaskets stay in, because if you lose that, you can't filter your water anymore.
Don't lose the O-ring.
Yeah, if you lose one and you're on the PCT, there's a hardware store that has that particular size O-ring in Agua Dulce. You're welcome.
Most of them have it. All right, so let's move on. We've done a lot of water. Let's see.
I want to talk about water more.
What are you talking? What are you talking about?
Let's move on.
Before we move on, just real quick, there are water reports for part sections of the PCT and the CDT. You can look those up separately if you want to know more about
those. Those are really handy.
Yeah.
All right, poop bag. It's a little washed out here. So for my toiletries bag for toilet paper, I literally just roll up toilet paper, stuff in a little tiny bottle of hand sanitizer, which I'll refill along the trail as I go, and put it in a Ziploc, the freezer bag, so it's a little more durable. That's my whole toiletries kit.
I don't have mine with me right now, but I usually do the same thing, and
well, you're on our Wi-Fi.
Yeah, stop doing that. Stop doing whatever you're doing there, because you're screwing the stream up, dude. Turn it all off.
Do you see the stream up right now?
The Deuce of Spades was introduced a few years ago, or a year ago, or 2 years ago, at some point. And it's basically a titanium trowel that you can use to dig your cat holes 6 to 8 inches deep. There's no excuse to not carry a trowel now. The Deuce of Spades has kind of made that argument, I don't know.
Yeah.
A little bit more relevant, you know.
I've used it. It's good.
Yeah, especially if you're on the AT, where there's more people. Dig a proper cat hole. Bring a trowel. Do it properly. There's way too many people out there not to do that.
Yeah, it's getting to a point where we have to dig proper holes now. There's too many people on the trails.
Yeah.
And I always used to dig with my tent stakes, like a groundhog from MSR, because it's a really beefy stake. And it worked for me, but honestly, at this point, it's just better to use a trowel. They're light enough now. There's some that are even lighter than the deuce of spades, like half an ounce at most. So,
And I can't talk for everybody, but to be completely honest, I didn't carry a trowel for a while, and I was like, oh, I'll just use my trekking pole or a stick, and there are times when I didn't dig a proper cat hole, and it was because I didn't have the proper equipment to do it. It wasn't as easy as possible as it could have been, so therefore, when I really had to go, or when something happened, I just didn't do it. And I think that a lot of thru hikers are guilty of that, and we need to really be focused on that more.
I have a good story about that. So I was in the section on the CDT between Leadville and Wolf Creek Pass, I think it was, the ski resort, and that's right when the Giardia hit, and I was literally maybe, I don't know, 100 feet off trail, just trying to dig a hole as fast as I could, but I couldn't help it. It just it went everywhere, and I, as trying to be a good trail ambassador, I tried to clean it up as best I could, but the damage was done. And digging proper cat holes are very important.
If you do get in a situation where you really need to go and you need to poop before you dig a cat hole, you're crouching there pooping. Why not dig a cat hole while you're pooping and then transfer all that poop into the cat hole?
That's multitasking.
That's the proper way to do it.
yeah.
So as far as my poop kit, I'm a little bit more, I guess, fancy or more of a princess.
Fancy pooper here.
Fancy pooper. So I also used the deuce of spades for a while. I recommend it. I also use wet ones, which are not biodegradable. So if you use wet ones to wipe your butt, you need to make sure you pack those out because they do not degrade as fast as, say, toilet paper, which a lot of people will say pack out your toilet paper as well. So if you're going to be like me, a little princess, you're going to have to carry your poop wet ones out. They're basically like baby wipes. So, and they do increase weight, but I like how it feels in my butt. So
Pack your toilet paper out. No matter what trail you're on, where you are, pack it out. No one likes to see toilet paper flowing in the wind, blowing in the wind.
Yeah, definitely.
Or flowing in the water. No one likes that, and you shouldn't be shitting near water anyways. So
biodegradable. I know I've heard
They
of
say
bio
they
wipes
are.
as well, but they don't degrade instantly, and animals will dig them up. So I used to use that same excuse, but you should still pack it out just to be a good trail
There's
ambassador.
too many people on trail to not pack it out.
We're getting preachy,
Yeah.
but it's a good message. Anyways, ground sheets. Or maybe let's do shelters because ground sheets are a part of that.
Yeah.
All right, so shelters.
We're going shelter first?
Well, what should we do?
Oh, my shelter's at the bottom. All right.
Mine is too.
Why don't we go?
Pack our packs
I keep
differently.
my shelter on the outside so it can dry.
Oh.
All right, so I don't have anything on the outside of my bag. All right.
Why don't we go with our base layer?
Okay. Yeah. We're not going to go into clothing. That could be a whole episode in and of itself. But we'll do base layers and stuff.
So I use a combination depending on where I'm at. When I was on the CDT, I picked up the Melanzana hoodie, which is a micro fleece.
Yeah, it's like a grid fleece.
It's like a grid fleece. I love this thing. It's synthetic. It keeps me warm. It has a nice, real deep hood. And this is pretty much what I use now when I backpack. I really enjoy it. And it's a real good company based out of Leadville, Colorado. And I'll give them a little plug.
Got it. All right, base layer. So depending on when I'm hiking, if I'm through hiking, I almost always have a base layer with me. If I'm just going out on a 2-day trip, it depends on the weather. But what I wear is Patagonia Capeline 4. Well, they just changed the name. Now they call it thermal weight. So there used to be Cap 1 through 4. Now it's like mid-weight, low weight, thermal weight. But, so the thermal weight is actually lighter than the mid-weight, but it's warmer. You can see here, hopefully, it's got some baffles in the fabric, so it's a little more susceptible to wind. So if you're in a really windy area using thermal weight, I would recommend some type of wind shell over it. But why do I have a base layers? Mostly for warm sleeping and for just hiking around camp. I don't wear them when I'm ever hiking unless it's a really cold day out, but it is nice to have that option when it is really cold. And then I'll hike for probably an hour until my body's completely warm, take off my base layer, and just keep hiking. Thermal weight Capilene, I really like it. It's light enough for what it is, and it's really nice at the end of the day to just have something clean to go into and be warm while you're hanging out around camp. Although you don't do too much hanging out around camp on a through hike, but still nice to be comfortable.
Yeah. For me, I don't carry a upper base layer, but I do carry this. This is like a military, poly. What is it called? Polartec bottoms. I got this from my brother-in-law. Thanks, Josh. And this has actually been my lower base layer for all 3 trails. They've held up great. It's pretty light. It would be considered like a lightweight base layer, but it worked for me. I usually wore them at night for bed, so I didn't have to be in my shorts that I wore during the day, and I would wear my shirt that I hiked in that day. On the AT, that gets a little more difficult because you are so wet all the time, but on the PCT and CDT, if my shirt was wet when I went to bed, I would just take it off and not wear a shirt in bed. Enough. I always had my puffy and everything where I could sleep in that if I needed to, but I didn't do that often. Yeah.
Let's just go through the rest of our clothing really fast that we have in our pack, not what we wear.
So I'll start first. I don't have all my gear, so I'll just go over it. I wear a beanie sometimes at night. Sometimes I have a puffy. I have my tights that I talked about earlier that also I sleep in once in a while if it's really cold. I don't really have any extra layers, so sometimes if it's like really cold, because I use a really lightweight bag that doesn't keep you that warm, I will sleep in my my backpack once in a while. So that's another layer that I use. That's why I'm a little lighter.
All right. So in my clothing, I have 1 extra pair of socks. If it's really cold, maybe if it's bordering on winter, I'll take a warmer pair of sleeping socks. Not really that necessary, more of a luxury thing. But when I'm hiking, I'll switch between my 2 pairs of socks so they get less crusty over time. A lot of people will hike in 1 pair until they get super crusty, but I would advise switching between them. What else? I have a beanie in case it gets cold on my head at night because I'm in a quilt. Not strictly necessary. I could always use the hood on my puffy jacket, but I like having a beanie, and I wear it when I hike. And mosquito net. A head net. It weighs, I don't even know, it's super light, probably 0.1 ounces maybe, 0.2. But just in case it gets really buggy, because I'm in a tarp, it's good to have a backup so I can at least keep the mosquitoes off my face, tuck into my quilt, and I'll be bug free. It's not the best solution, but it works.
And it's camouflage.
And it's camouflage, so people can't see you.
And look how cool you look wearing it.
You look like a beekeeper.
I could totally just keep bees right now.
I also have gloves sometimes that I use. If it's really cold on the CDT, I kept them the whole time, but they're just really lightweight. I don't have them with me right now, unfortunately. You might. Lightweight fleece gloves, like a fleece liner glove. Mountain Hardware makes them, and they work well. Good enough.
Yeah.
They get wet, yeah, but they're warm enough that even when they're wet, it's enough to keep you happy.
Yeah.
You just kind of have to deal with it.
These are gloves I have. Just little cheap gas station gloves. I usually cut the fingers out of them because I like to use my phone and take pictures and stuff. They don't really keep my hands that warm, but it's just a little bit extra, honestly. Yeah. I usually have hands in my pocket if it's that cold.
Yeah.
Yeah, my setup is pretty much the same as Joe's. I have my what is it called? Gloves and hat. Just about the same, just a small fleece hat and fleece gloves. Like you mentioned, in the rain, in the cold, in the snow, you wear them. They get wet, but at least you have something to keep the moisture in as much as you can. You could carry water tight gloves or like kitchen rubber gloves.
Really?
In a pinch. I bought them in
That's awesome.
At Stevens Pass, I believe. It was about the snow, and I really needed something to keep my hands dry, so I just got rubber kitchen gloves and put them over these, and that worked. Except they were a little tight, so I lost circulation in my fingers, which is not good when it's cold. But it kept them dry for a few hours.
And don't get cotton gloves because they just hold moisture and they stay wet all day, and it's horrible.
Yeah. But pair of sleeping socks, something that's a little more burly than the ones I hike in. So just in case I need them, I can do that. I have them, and I sleep in them, so I don't get my sleeping bag as dirty. And then 2 pairs of hiking socks that I switch out. I usually let mine get a little more crusty than Joe does, but it's just personal preference. I don't mind a little slimy socks every once in a while. Yeah.
Oh, the stream is really lagging.
It's
man.
Is it offline?
Yeah. Too many things.
That sounds like, why did we drop the 79?
Alright, we're going to drop it one more time.
Maybe we should move this. This is almost done. Let's go.
That's fine.
I'll turn off Wi-Fi like on our phone.
Or maybe you shouldn't be playing with it when you're like.
Did you do that?
Yeah.
Make sure. I don't think it's using anything, but.
Whoops.
This is also the time of day when everybody's using the internet and our internet dies down.
Okay, stream health is back to green though.
Okay. Oh, dude, don't do that to the camera.
Alright. So we can all thank Comcast for this lovely stream quality that we have here.
They're not sponsoring us.
Yeah. This episode is unsponsored by Comcast.
Unsponsored.
Whatever the opposite of sponsored is. Alright, so also... Oh, is it still slow? What is all this stuff? As far as... Where'd it go? Oh. So for socks, everyone always asks this. Oh, cool. Darn Tough socks. They've been my go-to for 3 trails now, and they're awesome. Smart Wools just don't last. They get holes in them so fast. There's other brands, and they all kind of suck. Darn Toughs just last a long time. They're not the most comfortable, I would say. There are more comfortable socks, I think.
I think that when you get to a thinner sock like that and a sock that you want to hike long distance in, comfort isn't necessarily the biggest concern for me. It's the durability, it's how well they dry, it's how well they kind of wick away the moisture.
Yeah.
And I think that Darn Tough does a great job with that.
Yeah. Plus, they have a lifetime warranty, so if you get a hole in them, you can send them in. They'll send them back to you fixed.
Even with that warranty, they are the durable, one of the most durable pair of socks.
Yeah,
I've used.
and they're really comfortable.
Yeah.
They're far more comfortable than most. So.
I personally don't subscribe to the darn sock phenomenon that's taken over the through hiking world. Although I do admit I do own some. They are very durable. I personally like new socks, and I know hiking socks can be expensive. So what I usually do is I will buy a cheaper type of sock, like maybe go to like Adidas socks, and I will wear them in between towns. And a lot of times, if they're ratty, I'll have new ones waiting for me in the next town. And if not, I'll bounce them ahead or something like that. That's what I prefer now. I really like new socks. They're just amazing, personally.
Yep.
New socks are great. I don't doubt that. I mean, I love new socks.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't use them for more than 2 weeks, they're usually good, even if they're not the best types of socks.
New socks are great.
All right, so insulating layer. On every hike, I've had an insulating layer no matter what. It can be synthetic, it can be down, doesn't matter. Ultimately, I like the Ghost Whisperer down jacket. What are you doing? Oh. Okay, so Ghost Whisperer down jacket. It's got water repellent down. It's worked for me in almost any situation I've come into. Yeah, down loses its insulation power when it gets wet, but so does everything, really. Everything is going to be cold and miserable if you're wet in it, so just keep it dry. That's my best advice. This is like a 7-ounce, maybe 8-ounce down jacket. It's warm enough for me. I've used it down to a little below freezing, 20 degrees. It's enough with a few other layers on, and it's a good jacket. I know that's what you use.
Yeah.
For a synthetic option, Patagonia R1 hoodie is a great option. They're not the lightest, but they're really warm for what they are, and they do perform better when they get wet.
Yeah.
Melanzana, it's a good choice.
So this is my base layer and my insulating layer. It's one and the same for me. I don't carry multiples because I don't have the space. So I run hot, so I can't say it's going to work for you. When I'm sleeping, I get hot in a 45-degree bag. That's just how my body works. So it's very rare that I will get hot. So that's why this is all I use. So
I don't have any reserve on me, so I am a cold person.
Yeah.
He's very cold. I can attest to that. What's that ding?
I don't know. Okay, so what next? We've done insulating layer.
Sleeping pad?
Yeah, let's do sleeping pad. This is probably going to be pretty... sleeping pad, Thermarest, NeoWear X-Lite, 12 ounces for a regular size. You can get it even lighter if you go small. It's a really nice pad. It's got horizontal baffles, so when you have long longitudinal baffles on an air mattress, it sort of feels like you're on a pool float or something. It's kind of bouncy. It's not the greatest. These really small horizontal baffles make it so it's a very firm but supple mattress. It makes for a good sleep. I really like it. Only downside is that they are crinkly, and I hear a lot of people complain about that, but I don't know why. I just go to sleep, so I don't know.
I wear earplugs, so I don't hear it. But yeah, these things work great. I don't do foam pads because I'm Princess in the Pea.
So that's the same pad as the NeoWear X-Lite, except it's the X-Therm, which is a warmer edition. So it has more insulating mylar baffles. So it's going to be warmer in colder conditions, which is nice.
This is important for me because, again, I said my bag is a lot less beefier than, say, theirs. So I need this because you lose a lot of your heat from below.
Yeah.
So this is very important for me. If I use one of those, I will probably get a little too cold.
And if you're in a quilt, definitely have a solid R-value pad underneath you so you have some insulation. Because you can lose a lot of heat to the ground.
I use the same thing, but mine's the older version, so it's rectangle, not curved like
I remember
theirs.
my first.
This is from 2011, and just kind of give you guys an idea of how durable these things can be. I bought this on the AT, and halfway through my hike, and I've used it on the AT, the rest of the AT, and the whole CDT, and it has no holes. I've never had any problems with it. So they're pretty durable. You do have to kind of be careful with them. Make sure you're not putting them on a cactus or something sharp that's gonna poke it. But if you're careful, they can last a long time.
Yeah, mine lasted 2 through hikes.
Yeah, it just depends. I've used multiple. I'm a little rough on my pads. I popped this brand new one I had. It was a similar one to this style, like on my 4th night. I think I blew it up. I blew an internal baffle, so I had this big bubble. But this one's lasted me a long time, and then I have the same one MeHap has, and that one's still kicking with a bunch of tenacious tape over it, and it's fine.
You want to not put them in the sun too, because you can blow baffles.
Yeah, don't leave them in the sun. Don't really leave them inflated when you're not on them, I guess. I mean, you can inflate them like an hour before you go to sleep, but it's not good to have them heat up in the sun at all.
Even when I do that, I usually don't inflate it the whole way.
Yeah.
Just in case it gets warmer and expands.
And I inflate by mouth. I know it increases the chance of mold. That's never been an issue for me. I mean, I can see it in my pad that it has some buildup in there, but it's really not a big deal. That it still insulates the same.
What's the concern of mold?
Just don't breathe it in. That's all it is.
Like, I guess, yeah, you don't want to breathe
I don't
it
even
in.
think it's that type of mold, though.
Yeah.
I don't know. But that's a lot of people get caught up on that, I think. And
I may have mold in mine. I don't know. It's never affected me.
yeah, it's still comfortable.
You're going to be disgusting out of your worries. To be honest, I don't care about mold out there.
I don't care about mold.
I don't believe in it. Don't believe in it.
So when I use my pad, I just roll it into the long tube, and I made this custom stuff sack that just holds it together to add structure to my pack. There's nowhere to buy that right now. You just have to make one. I don't know. Maybe I'll
like
start
a
making
long
them.
sleeve.
Yeah, a long sleeve. Or you can just roll your pad up, stuff it in.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like the stream is still suffering.
Yeah, this video will be up on his channel afterwards.
Yeah.
So
It'll look normal without all the...
I don't know. I've never had it be this bad for some reason. I think it's the internet. Okay, so that's sleeping pad. Let's move on to quilt, bag, whatever.
Cool.
Even though mine's at the bottom.
So I'll go first. I don't always use this stuff sack, and it's fallen apart. I've had it for multiple years. This is a Z-Pack stuff sack.
We're going to have to refresh the stream.
Okay.
All right. 1 second, guys. We're going to refresh. This thing.
Are you using an app, or is it just either YouTube?
It's an app, but it's an open source app, and apparently the encoder can't handle what we're doing.
Okay. Is it running up again or no?
It's running, yeah. We are live.
Okay. Is it working, guys? I'll continue if someone says yes, they can see and hear me decently. All right.
Oh, I thought someone was asking about a backpacking cape. I was like,
Okay, I'm just gonna keep talking because
I think they're on a delay because it has to buffer.
Okay. Anyways, so I use a Z-Pack stuff sack that I usually put my sleeping bag in, and that's a lie. I don't use a sleeping bag. I use a quilt. This stuff sack, before I go into, actually serves as my pillow as well. If you turn it inside out, it has like a fleece liner, and then I usually put some sort of something soft in here, and I use this as a pillow for people who are asking if I use a pillow. So the quilt I use is a really old Go-Lite quilt. This is a 45-degree quilt. I would not recommend this for most people. They don't even make this anymore, but anything comparable to this, I would not recommend. I would definitely go at least a 30. Be rated wrong because I've slept comfortable down to 20 in this thing with no problems. That just might be my body type. I don't know. But yeah, this is what I use, and it's a little heavy for a 45-degree. It's like a pound 6 ounce or something. Yeah, I just haven't got anything new because I like it.
Yeah, and to answer your question, what do you do when you get a hole in your sleeping pad on trail? I carry a little... What are we... Oh man, this is ridiculous.
I might want to cut it short. This is going to do that.
Yeah. Why is this happening? Is it back? Alright, everything's on airplane mode. Yeah, okay, so we're back. It's just not great. When I get I've had one hole in my trail, and I carry a little tiny piece of what's called tenacious tape, and all you have to do is clean off the area where the hole is. And to find the hole, if you're in a hotel or something, or if you're near a stream or a pond, you can blow up your sleeping pad, stuff it under the water if you can. Try to find out where the hole comes out, or where the air is coming out. You'll see bubble. Where's the hole come out? where the air comes out, you'll see bubbles, and so follow those bubbles, keep your finger on it or circle it with a Sharpie or something, and take a piece of tenacious tape, really strong tape. It's like a clear tape. They do make colors though, and cut a circle in it. You don't want any edges because the edges of it tend to be places where the tape will pull up, and just stick it right over the hole. And I got a hole on the PCT, patched it with tenacious tape, and it lasted for the CDT, and it's still going strong.
Yeah. And your pad will come with a little kit with wet or alcohol wipes to clean the surface and apply, and it has a patch. You can carry that, and if you use that, you can pick up some tenacious tape on trail. And a lot of times you can find tenacious tape in hiker boxes. So someone will buy it and then use a little bit and then throw it in a hiker box so other hikers can take some to use later.
Yep. All right. Okay. I think the stream's going. Man, this is not acceptable.
Well, we have 15 minutes.
Yeah. Okay, so sleeping pad. That's covered.
Can you show your bag?
Okay.
Back?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here, you
I'll
guys work on the stream.
Okay.
So, I use a quilt as well. Usually when you say quilt, it's just a sleeping bag without a zipper and maybe without a hood as well. But it reduces weight. Blah, blah, blah. I use a Enlightened Equipment. Revelation? I believe it's the Revelation.
Let me see the toe box or the foot box.
This quilt has a drawstring on the top to go around your head. I almost never use that drawstring. I find that the corners I can just tuck in, and it works just fine. And then on the bottom it has a zipper for the toe box and a pull cord on the bottom for the toe box. So you can use it as just a normal quilt that's without a toe box, or you can zip it up and use it with the toe box. I like using the toe box because, especially when it's colder, because it does keep it contained and around your feet. It's pretty light, and
What's the fill?
It's a 0 degree. I think the fill on this one is 900, but it's the 0 degree, and I'd recommend carrying a 0 degree if you're a colder type person on trail, especially if you're doing the PCT or CDT. PCT you could get by with a 30, or if in some cases
most people out there
20.
are 30s from what I remember.
Yeah, I sleep a little colder, and want a little more range in mine, so I went with a 0. I think my next quilt will be probably a 10 or 20. But just to give me that range, but not be quite as warm.
I'm going to pause it for a second.
Okay.
And reduce it. All right. All right. It should be good now. I reduced the quality quite a bit. I'm not getting a frame rate notification. It looks okay. All right. Thank you, Comcast.
This episode is brought to you by Comcast. It's the only option, so thank you for giving us this quality.
Yeah. Sorry about this, guys. Next time, this will not be this way. I'll fix it before then. Oh, okay, it's much better. Okay, I think it was a frame rate issue. My computer is really old, so maybe it's my computer, but it's also Comcast.
So should we go?
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. We're back. So, quilts. Oh, you just did your quilt?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Did you do yours?
Yes, I did.
Oh, so it's just me.
Yep.
All right. So this is my quilt. So we all use quilts, right?
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah. A lot of people are a little intimidated by switching to a quilt. Don't be. Quilts are just as warm as long as you have something underneath you to insulate you, like a sleeping pad. And if it gets too cold, I put on a hood or a beanie and my head stays plenty warm. I wrap the quilt around my neck and just tuck it underneath me. I don't have any air gaps. I don't have issues with drafts coming in because I just keep the quilt tucked underneath me.
Did you make this one?
Yeah.
I was like, where's the branding?
So this quilt is just a DIY quilt. It's got 900 fill power down. It's got a pound of down. I've used it down to 10 degrees and been warm. Anywhere below that, it starts to get a little cold, but livable. It's a good quilt. I don't know. I've got videos on it, so I don't need to go into too much detail on it.
I would use this quilt.
Yeah.
It's a nice quilt.
It's lasted for 2 trails now.
It feels real nice still. It doesn't feel like this thing.
And it doesn't smell that bad. Yeah,
That bad?
This one smells like... No, it doesn't smell.
All my gear smells.
Yeah, that one doesn't have a smell
Yeah.
either. Maybe we just all stink already.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's quilts. Let's do shelters now. Can we?
Okay. I'm not going to bring mine out because you can just look this up online. I have the Z-Packs, I forget the name of the model. I think it's the Soloplex Plus or something like that. I can double check. But it's a full enclosure. It does not have a bathtub floor, but it comes with an attachment that also serves as a bathtub floor and a poncho. I use that. This thing weighs, without the poncho, like a pound and some change, like a pound 3 ounce or something. I love this thing. It's pretty good. It's bomb proof. I'm 6'3". I'm pretty tall, and I barely fit in this thing. So if you're any taller, good luck.
All right. So it's just a ground tarp. It's a homemade one. I've got videos on it on my channel if you're really interested in it. It weighs 8.5 ounces for the entire tarp, and it's about 10 feet long. It's a sil nylon tarp. I don't know, I can't really show it, unfortunately, in this video, but it's an A-frame tarp. It's got cat cuts along all of the edges, so it'll pitch a little bit tighter. It's got, on the side pullouts, it has elastic, because the downside with sil nylon is it starts to stretch a bit overnight as it gets moisture and as it gets cooler. And my solution to that is just an elastic little loop here, and that's where I put my stake. And so as it gets colder and as the sil nylon stretches, it sucks up a bit in the elastic. So it keeps it pitched pretty tightly.
Smart.
It is wide open. A lot of people take issue with that, but I will answer the question one more time that came up in the last stream. I've never had any issues with critters crawling on me or anything, snakes coming into my quilt at night. I'm wide open. I can see everything around me, which is nice. And you get to see the stars. It's just a better way to go, in my opinion. When it gets windy, you can do certain things. And I'll do a video on this because I've gotten a lot of questions about how to pitch a tarp properly. But wind's not a big issue. Rain's not an issue. Tarps just work pretty well, as long as you're okay with being in the open.
So I misspoke. I have the Hexamid Solo Plus from Z-Packs. Retail $4.50. So it's not cheap. I paid a pretty penny. And I've had it since the CDT, which was in 2015. And I think I probably put almost 2,000 miles on it, and it's still working for me.
Yeah, and Cuban fiber for a shelter is going to be a lot more expensive than a sil nylon shelter. But in my experience, I have the Yammer Mountain Gear Ceraform tarp, and I believe this is the version that has the 0.8 ounce Cuban fiber, not the 0.5 ounce, which they are making now, I think. But Jin over there at Yammer Mountain Gear is really a great guy, and he makes some really killer shelters, in my opinion. The craftsmanship on these things are amazing, and I've had this thing on the PCT and the CDT, and haven't had a single issue with it. It is just a top tarp. It does have beaks on either side to kind of keep you a little more protected, but it is open to the elements as far as, you know, elements not top down but from the side, I guess. But I've only had a few little issues with the critters. I really like Cuban fiber as a tarp, a shelter material. It doesn't stretch like sil nylon does, and it's pretty stinking light. Yeah.
Someone asked the question if we clean our tarps or tents. I don't worry about those kind of things while I'm hiking. I do it after, personally. I mean, I guess if I had the capability of cleaning it would just be a lot of work while I'm in town. I don't bother, personally.
I've never cleaned this, and it's done the PCT and the CDT, and it's fine.
And I've never cleaned mine either.
I cleaned mine when I got home, but that was literally with, I think in a bucket with some sort of really soft soap without any chemicals in it. It was like I don't know. You could look it up online.
If you are gonna clean it, I think is it WinMax?
Yeah, the one that that one.
They have a whole array of
it's like a backpacking brand that you can use. And then all I did was soak it in a bucket for a little bit. I pitched it and then I hosed it off like 3 or 4 times, and that was how I got the soap off of it.
Yeah. The tarp is that's not the tarp. The tarp is still nylon, and 8.5 ounces. Yeah. Sums that up. Yeah, I get asked that a lot about bugs on long trails and do I have a net for my tarp? And in my experience on the AT, PCT, and CDT, there was about 1 week on trail, maybe 2 weeks, where mosquitoes were bad. And for those 2 weeks, I would either wear my head net at night and wrap myself in my quilt, which is not optimal, or I had a Sea to Summit Nano Pyramid, which was like a 3-ounce bug net. It works pretty well. It's really lightweight. It's enough for one person, and you can actually hang it under the tarp. Or if you don't use your tarp, you can pitch it with your poles and just have a bug net when you're cowboy camping. So that's what I do for nets. 99% of the time, I don't even have a net.
Yeah, and I think you saw both of us carry, or all 3 of us carry our clothes in bug net head nets.
Yeah.
And when it is really buggy in my tarp, I'll just put that over me, and if I want it off my face, I'll put my hat on and just sleep with my hat on. Not the most comfortable thing in the world, but it works.
Yeah.
And you don't have to carry a whole bug net shelter.
And it's like 2 weeks on trail. Or probably more like 1 week in my experience.
Yeah. To reinforce their point, on the PCT, I probably slept in my tent 6 or 7 times. I usually cowboy camp unless there's going to be weather. On the CDT, I used it a lot more just because it rained almost every night I was out there, at least for an hour. So I usually use it more for rain. So they're right about the bug netting. I just personally like it because I don't like things crawling on me at night. But it's very rare that they even do. So they're right. I agree.
Thank you.
Well, it's true. I just like my tent.
Yeah, I mean, some people like the shelter of the tent, and that's like their little space, and some people like to be out in the elements and see the stars.
Yeah. That about covers it. I guess we have...
If you could choose any pack, which one would you choose? We would all have different answers, but, I mean, we already showed our packs. You could see that in the beginning.
I would just choose the pack that I'm making right now.
I would if I could choose any pack on a Thru, I'd probably go with the Mountain Laurel Design pack because I know it works for me without a hip belt, as long as your weight is low. So that's the Mountain Laurel Design burn.
Food bags. We'll just do this really quick. This is my food bag. There's all sorts of different things you can use for food bags. This one is water resistant. It's a Granite Gear something.
Airbag?
I don't know. But it's got a top zip, which is really nice for food. So this is, if I'm getting food out, I just have clothes in there right now. But if I'm getting food out, I can open the top. I don't have to dig way down into a vertical dry bag or something. I can just access everything I need, leave it sitting there while I get food out.
I think for me, I switched to one of these too on the CDT, and just the accessibility of your food is great, and that you might not understand that until you get out there, but when you want to get to your food, it's really nice that you have, instead of having to go into a tube and like search for it or take everything out.
Yeah.
I personally, I think last year I used a Harley Davidson bag I got at Sturgis. I bought like a couple of shirts, and like it was just a really strong type of plastic bag that I used.
It's normal for hikers to go to Sturgis before a thru hike. And
usually,
get
it's pretty common.
Yeah.
So I personally will use this whatever I have, and then but they're right about the accessibility of that. I was constantly digging, and half the time I would just dump out everything and then put it back, which is not very efficient.
And then you have your like salami or your summer sausage, and it starts to like leak juices and stuff in the bottom of your bag, and then you got to reach your hand in there and you reach in the.
That bag got pretty funky,
yeah.
but it served me well. Yeah. There was a few things I didn't go over. So I wanted to talk about the polenta pack a little bit. It has this bottom compartment. I don't know if you can see it. I like to keep wet gear in there. It's not really intended for that. I usually keep like a rain jacket. Right now it's a frog tog that's in there, which is really nifty. Also, it has pockets on the front, which you can keep a cell phone or you can keep a camera or something. You can kind of see right here, the pockets. And then a couple things that I don't think they probably hike with. Since I don't use a hip belt, a lot of times I like to have a fanny pack. And I usually sling it to the side so it's not getting in the way. That's something I personally like. Other than that, I do carry an umbrella, and I've been testing out the Montbell smaller, I don't know what they call it, chrome dome or something. I personally would not recommend this. I prefer this style. Even though it's more of an eyesore when you're hiking. This thing is, there's no comparison. I've been testing it out, and I personally don't like it. It does not work for me. I have a couple of these at home. I will take this on my. I got a bunch in a hiker box. I will personally use this instead of this next time. So I just wanted to point that out.
And I believe Go Light is not in business anymore, but they're no longer selling that. I believe you can get them on.
You can get them on Amazon.
Gossamer Gear.
You can get them on Gossamer Gear at Amazon.com. Yeah. They have the non-branded ones on Amazon.
There's a European company that makes them, and there are other companies here in the States that have started to sell them. So.
I think that was it.
Yeah.
I mean, I keep a little pack towel, but it's not that important. I don't know. I like to wipe down my shelter at night. The Z-Packs does tend to get, any single wall shelter will get some sort of condensation. So I keep this, and I will wipe it down at night if it's really, really wet, just so I don't get drops on my face. So that's something that I use.
So, did you use this one?
No, what?
The bear canister?
Oh.
So, with bear canisters...
You should repeat the question.
Oh, sorry. So the question is, what do you do when you have to use a bear canister? And with the ULA, Ohm 2.0, it fits in there. I don't think that ULA recommends that you use this pack with bear canister, but I used it throughout the PCT, throughout the Sierras, and I didn't have any issue. When you put, I guess the fear is it's too narrow to use it, but I was able to put my bear canister in there, and it was a the Bear Vault 500 milliliter.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so it's the bigger Bear Vault. I was able to put it in the pack off to one side, and then fill up some of my other pieces of gear on the side of it, and it worked out fine. I really had no issues, and I actually grew to like it because you could it kind of kept the form of the pack. And when your water or when your food goes down, you just start putting things inside the canister when you pack your pack. So that kind of reduces the size, just like it would if you're using a food bag.
Yeah.
So.
And that's the advantage of having a bigger pack and having that extra room for times like that.
I use a different kind. I use the carbon fiber one. I don't remember the name.
Really?
Well, I rented it. I used it on the PCT, and that one, I do know the large one does fit in the Burn, the MLD pack. And that one I used, I love the capacity of it, and I love how easy it is to open compared to the Bear Vault. You use either a little screwdriver, or you could use a quarter to open it. And to me, it's a lot easier, and it has a little bit more volume. They are very expensive, but if you rent them, they are reasonable. I don't know the name. You can Google it. It's a carbon fiber bear can.
Stream went down. It looks like it's back up, though. Ah, man, this is crazy.
Why don't we just...
We're already an hour and a half.
Let's cut it.
All right. To answer those last few questions I saw very quickly, the quilt was approximately $100 to build, I think, not including labor. The tarp was like 70 to make, not including labor. Labor. All right, I think we'll cut it now.
Yeah. If you guys have any additional questions that we haven't answered here, I believe this video is going to go up on your YouTube channel.
Yeah, assuming it's not choppy. I don't know.
But when it does go up, just put them on the comments and we'll be able to look at those and maybe do another one of these or something, or answer your questions in another way.
Are bear cans required in the CDT anywhere?
I never had to use one anywhere.
There's a section in Wyoming, just south of Yellowstone, I believe, where they are going to start requiring bear canisters.
Yeah, things change all the time. You have to keep current with that. There was another question regarding... Go ahead.
With the increased popularity of the trails, there's more people, which are more interactions with bears, and a lot of places like Slaughter Creek on the AT is now requiring a bear canister if you stay there. So, whereas before there was nowhere on the AT that bear canisters were required. So, do your research, look up for your year which areas require bear canisters.
Someone had a question about resupplies. Most people use, they send their own packages and they resupply. They use a combination. I doubt anyone uses one or the other. They just do it depending on the town. You have to do your research.
Yeah, I try to do it always in town when I can, but there are a few times where the town, or where there is no food and you have to mail forward. And you can do that from a previous town as long as you know that's coming up.
And in my opinion, if you can do that, that's the easiest way to do it, because you don't know what you want to eat or where you're going to exactly need resupplies. So doing it on trail is the best way to do it if you can do it.
Also, you don't know how far you're going to get. So if you pack all your boxes prior, you might have a lot of boxes left over at the end of a half-done through hike, like what happened to me.
Yeah. All right, maybe we should touch on these few last things. Trekking poles. I definitely use trekking poles. I love Lecky poles. They've always done extremely well for me. They're super durable. I don't really care too much about trekking pole weight. As long as it's close to a pound for the pair, that's good enough. And if anything, it helps me maintain what little muscles I have in my arms while I'm hiking.
T-Rex arms. On the CDT, I started with I think carbon fiber Costco poles. You know, the big wholesale store Costco. They sell them like $30 or something. I broke one in the Gila, and I think the other one lasted. I'm more of a one pole hiker. Last year on the PCT, I used some black diamond poles that I found in a hotel. They were some lightweight kind, and I will say that I could not tell much of a difference between the $200 black diamond ones and the $30 Costco poles. They're, in my opinion, about the same. The black diamond ones, of course, are going to be lighter, but it was negligible.
And trekking poles are very helpful for your knees, especially going downhill.
Yeah. I use the Lecky, or a pair of Lecky poles. I've used these on multiple through hikes, and they've lasted. The things that wear out the most are the tips. You're going to have to replace them every 1,000 miles or less, depending on how long you push them. But that should be the only thing you have to replace during a through hike.
Yeah. Baskets on the AT. I wouldn't use baskets.
Baskets.
It's rare that I find them useful.
I don't like them because I like to stick them in between the, I don't know what you call that on a backpack.
Strap?
The strap diagonal across from the pack. And if you have baskets, they're going to get caught. So I personally don't like them. I mean, they don't really need them in my opinion.
On the AT, they can prevent leaves from going further up the shaft, which, if that's important to you, you're going to get leaves stuck on your poles on the AT anyways.
Yeah.
I hike with them. I've only bought two. One pair came with them, and then I replaced them once. But, I don't know.
Yeah. Meh. Yeah. Plus, when you get leaves on them, you get to flick them off and make it rain.
Yeah, make it rain.
That's right.
Yeah, I have been testing out recently the $30 Costco ones, and I've been really impressed with them. I actually used them yesterday. It was pretty cool.
If you can get the kind that have the cork grips, those are going to be a lot better because I've tried both the cork and I've tried the rubberized ones. The rubberized ones, after a while in the sun, will start to degrade and your hands will get black.
Oh, yeah.
So if that matters to you, it mattered to me because it was disgusting and it was like this kind of weird stickiness.
It happens with Lecky too.
Yeah, the cork does not do that, and in my opinion, it lasts longer and it's better in rain. The black ones in rain were horrible.
I've used the straight cork handles before, and I wasn't a big fan.
No.
I felt like they just started falling apart on me. That may have been the pair I was using, the brand, whatever. But I'm a really big fan of the Lecky Cork Light, I believe it is, handle. There's no residue that I've ever gotten on my hand, and it's not like a true cork. It's more like a plasticky cork, but it's comfortable, and it's lasted a really long time.
I think one thing to take away from this stream, even if it was horrible to watch, was everybody's different.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of what we were trying to get across, is that there's no right answer with a lot of things.
Yeah.
Until there is a wrong answer.
Until there is a wrong answer. You're never going to make it.
But gear is gear. Yeah, I mean, it's a tool to get out there. The important thing is just getting out there. I've seen people use all sorts of different gear, especially on the AT, and they still survive. So that can change with time. That you can get better gear as you progress.
If you didn't think about it.
No? What?
I think,
No, it's great.
If you do want to get lighter and you already have equipment, reduce what you're bringing out there before you buy new equipment. You don't have to spend hundreds of dollars on new lightweight equipment. Just make sure you're reducing what you carry, and do that first before you start investing all this money.
Less is more. That's what I've learned. Having all these extra knickknacks are nice sometimes, but you really don't need them. And a lot of times before big hikes, you can get shakedowns at different kickoffs and stuff like that. Or if someone's a seasoned hiker, you can ask them for a shakedown. And that does help sometimes because it'll put you in the mindset of maybe I don't need that, and you can think about it for a week before you drop that item or decide to keep it.
Yeah, and I think that we've all done that, gone through that process, and hiked the miles and used the equipment to get to where we are now. And reducing the gear you use and everything and what you bring out there takes time. It takes time and experience. So don't hesitate to ask someone who's done a through hike or something what gear they used, or if they can kind of take a look at your gear.
Yep. All right. One more thing, rain gear. We didn't touch
go
that
over
at
that.
all. I forgot to put mine in my pack. For my rain gear, I use a really lightweight jacket, the OR Helium 2 rain jacket. It's a very minimal jacket, and it's cut pretty tightly, but it's worked really well for me. If it's too tight, you can get go up one size, so you can actually put some layers under the jacket. But it's not the warmest rain jacket, but that's another reason why I like it, because I always overheat when I have a rain jacket on. Yeah. If it's the right time or the right trail, I will carry just an umbrella and a rain skirt. As it starts to get colder, I just move back to a rain jacket and a rain skirt.
I use a Marmot mica. It's a fairly lightweight. I don't think it's the lightest weight on the market, but it has a nice Velcro cuff for your wrist, which I don't really use. I don't adjust, so I don't know why I mentioned that.
But it's great to have it.
That's great, yeah. I've used two of these on both the PCT and the CDT. By the end of the hike, it's been my experience that these lighter weight jackets are garbage at the end of a hike. In the beginning of the hike, they're really waterproof, and then they really degrade after that. But it works for light rain. When it gets a little worn out, works for light rain, and you're gonna get wet if it's pouring down anyways.
So I'll say this about the Helium. I've used it on 2 trails, and it's been waterproof the whole time.
So I guess don't get a mic up.
So
That's Marmot for you.
So you think you're better than us, is what you're saying.
I think Marmot is inferior to OR.
Gotcha. So on my past hikes, I've actually used Mountain Hardware shell. I don't remember which kind. One of the lighter ones. It was okay, but like MeHap said, after a while, it degrades and it falls apart. I've been testing Frog Togs recently, and I really like them. You do have to treat them like they're newborn babies because they're really thin, and yeah, they will rip really easy. But same for the top Frog Togs. They're really cheap. You can find them on Amazon or Big Five or whatever, and they're nothing special. But you can just buy more of these if they rip. That's what I like about them, and they're really light. So that's what I've been testing out. One of these probably will not last you a whole through unless you rarely use it. So know that going into it.
Yeah. Rain gear.
I think that's it.
Yeah, I guess that about covers it.
That concludes our live stream. It was sponsored by Bacon. It's Chicharrones. There you go.
Yeah.
No.
It wasn't.
Nope.
It wasn't. But they're really good. You should try them on trail.
Yeah, so if you have additional questions, this video will pop up on YouTube later as just a video you can watch, hopefully without all the lag and problems. And you can stick the questions in the comments. We'll try to get back to you. If not, we're going to be doing more live streams for sure in the future, and I can promise you that they will not be as bad as this one was. It might mean we might have to upgrade the internet, which sucks, but is what it is. We did get a new camera for this live stream, and I think it outputs in a much higher quality, so I also need to check that out, but it doesn't matter. Anyways.
Or a new laptop.
Yeah. That sums up the stream. Yeah. Thanks for watching, guys.
Thank you.
More live streams to come, more videos to come. See you next time.
Take care.
Bye. I miss you guys already.